this spot we're going to be having a look at the Batman, Night Strike Batman. This comes to us from the Extreme Power line, which was the later, probably like the second last series of Batman figures from this Batman cartoon. Probably near the end of this is probably, I think by now the series was probably running on fumes. I still thought it was a cool cartoon, and I still enjoyed it. Probably not one of my favorite Batman cartoons, but still definitely it's definitely up there though. On the back of the packaging, well, first of all, it shows the feature, and I thought this. I'll get into this when I get the figure out of the packaging, but I think this gimmick, this extreme power key, I thought was kind of stupid. But the other figures in the wave, there is Criminal Capture Batman. There's Batgirl, Midnight Ninja Batman, there's Clayface, there's the Riddler, Night Shadow Batman, Batarang Batman, and Crazy Cut Up Joker. This, I would say, probably aside from maybe the Batgirl, yeah, I think Batgirl's probably the only exception. Aside from her, every character in this wave is either a reissue like Riddler here and Clayface, or is just really a repaint. So like for example, Night Shadow Batman is a surprisingly Night Strike Batman's not on here, but Night Shadow Batman, for example, is the exact same figure, but they've just colored the utility belt, and a lot of these figures are just repaints. So very disappointing. You know, it's to be expected. I know a lot of times if they can reuse a figure mold, they will. But there you have packaging on the Batman, the Night Strike Batman. Let's get this figure opened up, and then we will get a closer look at the figure. So stay tuned. Okay, let's get a closer look at Batman here. Show you guys the back here as well. He's got a nice cloth cape, which I think is added points. Not all figures I think work well with a cloth cape, but I think the Batman was a good example. I also do like the fact that his cape is a little bit longer than his legs, so you can actually have his cape drape on the ground. Now this figure, for many people would think this is just really a reissue Batman from the first wave. And what I'll do is I'll bring in the other Batman. This Batman is from the first wave of the Batman figure line. As you can see, probably the first indication that it's not quite the same Batman is that the cowl is a little bit different. The eyes, look at those eyes. But the eyes are a lot larger on the later released Night Strike Batman than on the initial, Zipline Batman, I think that was his name. The symbol looks like it's the exact same. Utility belt looks like it's the exact same. Certainly the legs and everything else are the exact same. And then obviously with Zipline Batman, I've already done the review of this guy, but the Zipline Batman had the Batarang that you could extend from his arm. This was all one thing, one piece. And they've gotten rid of it for this Batman, and they've actually thrown in the articulation back into this elbow, which it didn't have in this figure. Speaking of articulation, though, you don't get a lot just because his huge bicep gets in the way, which yeah, kind of a shame. I think looking back on it, I probably prefer this Batman cowl a little bit more than this one. I think his eyes are a little too large. It kind of looks like a bug. But he has articulation in the legs, the knees. You're not going to, I mean, there's articulation in the head. The head's actually a little loose too, but you're not going to get loads of articulation with this Batman. Now, what I was talking about with his gimmick, I'll get him to stand here. The one thing I was talking about with the gimmick is he comes with what I think is a pretty neat zip line. It's similar to this Batman zip line, although he can actually just hold it, and I like the fact that it's blue. The only downside to it is, as you can see, the hook from the zip line doesn't actually extend. There's the end of it there. The reason why it doesn't extend is because you have to get this stupid key. Kind of looks like a a vial, like a plutonium or something like that. But the idea is you actually have to put it in his Batarang, and then once it's in the Batarang, he can fire off his zip line. You have to turn it just a slight bit. Now, why oh why couldn't they have just actually had Batman use his zip line on his own? Because as you can see, if you put it in his hand here, make sure I've got it on camera here, but if you put it in his hand, I mean, it's large enough, but then the fact he's got this stupid part connected to it, I think really defeats the purpose. If you ask me, I would just leave it off and maybe just display Batman, even though I wish there was a clip or something here that could actually clip onto his arm. But I think that's probably the way I'll display him, is probably that way. I would stay away from using this, to be honest. It's just kind of dumb. But overall, I mean, it's not a bad figure. If you like the Batman figures, I definitely would say it's a nice figure. Still, though, I might prefer the original Batman a little bit more face-wise. But if you can't find that figure, you definitely would want to pick up this figure. But there you go. I mean, there's a toy spot on the Batman's Night Strike Batman. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Later.